This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. Over here this is for the Chimera channel. It is 2024, in various story updates and rumors and threads and things. I thought to just chime in on those immediately, and they're all rumors. Made it kind of sound like in our last chats on the channel that we had something to do with Star Trek Online and Star Trek Legacy and all that other stuff. Kind of sounded like that. We don't. Um, in fact, our connections to Star Trek Online is moving over to DC, so we don't have a connection to Star Trek Online at all. Um, and we weren't able to log onto the game at all. This computer is rather not set up for that kind of thing, and it doesn't have the camera thing. We have to record video separately on a separate disconnected camera, then take the video card, the SD card, and put it in the computer in order to even see. We can't do a live video feed with this. We probably could with a cell phone, but I didn't. I don't usually do that. You can do Zoom on other things like the cell phone, but can't play a game on that. Can't play the screen's too small. We're not affiliated with Star Trek Online in any way. That Starship's review thing is interesting. It is interesting that recently, in terms of starships, that it also appears that it seemed like we were related to another series called Final Frontier, which was a fan series that actually got the attention of Paramount somehow in 2006. I don't know how they could have, because they were technically they still weren't accepting scripts and submissions. So apparently this fan was actually not a fan, but a famous person who got their stuff submitted over there. Not just a fan. It was rejected. Ultimately, the J.J. Abrams stuff started in 2007 in production, so they just said, no, we don't want yours. And that appeared on Trek back in the day on Trek Web, before Trek Core. We spent 10 years on Trek Core from then on, up until a little over 10 years. It was like 2012 to basically 2022, and then Trek Core ended. We were on that. You can see Chimera on Trek Core, and there's all these discrete pieces of our channels all over the place on other people's sites, which we don't mind, but it's just incomplete. That's all. There's two other channels that do reviews of our reviews, and then our channel has the third season of Starship Chimera because they didn't get around to it finishing theirs. But they can copy ours if they want to. Also, the All Transformers Mush, the same deal. We're not doing an episode guide for the Mush, because main reason for not doing an episode guide of the Mush online is those scripts are based on previously recorded scripts by other people, and we'd have to give a byline to each and every one of them. And that would be very, very annoying, and just, no, we're not going to do that. There would be so much red tape associated with that. We're not going to do that and put up an episode guide to that, because so the most in order archive is Weird Kitty 07 channel has an archive of all of them, of course, but there's also a second one, the Fractured Vita Play FFOK. Fractured Vita Play was originally doing Funko parodies, but they were all taken down, and now it does Transformers, all Transformers Much archive. So it's over there if you want to see the whole series from Trans to all Transformers Mush, Space Bridge, all that, Transformers meets Robotech, and Robotech meets Transformers from last year, the sequel, follow-up, different timeline, and all that. The Chimera has a different timeline thing too. This is not about Transformers Mush. We already did that on the other channel. This is about Chimera, so we'll try to keep it Chimera, or talk about that. Star Trek Prodigy, I didn't save it. Someone else did. The Trek Cards people and the other people helped with that one. They're going over to Nickelodeon. Netflix is picking them up. So they've already started. They got season 1 there already. But they have not started the show yet. The second season is not out yet. It's still in production. So that's all we know here. And once that guy leaves, once the other people leave, we won't know at all. We won't have any idea. It'd be like when you left Trek Core and didn't know any of the Trek Core stuff. Didn't know about Stranger World Season 2 coming out. Didn't know about Picard Season 3 coming out. None of that stuff. But that other connection had left. And yeah, they feature a parody of some of those connections in Starship Destinations, but they actually weren't them. They were us playing them. So that's kind of confusing. Also, some COL, ex-COL Jungsu people. We were playing them. It wasn't them. We were playing them. With their names changed. Yeah, so they wouldn't need the byline. Quentin Tarantino was not in the script. It was a story there was an episode based on Quentin Tarantino. On his premise, which was basically, Pulp Fiction with Star Trek. Like, yeah, that's how we did it. It was entirely us. Entirely. It had nothing to do with him. So don't think that it's some kind of connection to the director Quentin Tarantino. Let's see what else is there. Okay, we don't know about season 4 of Lower Decks yet. I'm assuming they're doing stuff. The Lower Decks people are a different person, so we don't know. Can't say. But it is funny that there was a weird, because Lower Decks takes place 20 years before the present day in the Star Trek canon. Yeah, they're there was a younger version of me. And I was the guy who gets shot with a phaser. But yes, but yeah, that was pretty funny. But so we have, but actually that might have been an editing error. That might have actually been the chief engineer getting shot, because you don't see him again in that scene. So that might have actually been it. But I'll take it as it was a Kal Kat. He's in there. Probably not. I mean, not officially. So yeah, there's other. Yeah. Okay, I don't know much about the Section 31 movie. I know that's kind of a weird idea. They shouldn't do Starfleet Academy taking place in the 32nd century, because nobody cares about the 32nd century except for the people doing Discovery Season 5. They really shouldn't go there. It's just a bad idea. That's my opinion. But yeah, don't put me on Midnight's Edge and Doomcock, because they try to. But no, I don't hang out with those guys at all. They're a bit too toxic. I don't hang out with them. But yeah, they were also misquoting the channel as well. Even though I don't have very many subscribers on my 3 or 4 channels, I have the Chimera channels and fan film channels. Somehow an influencer, even though I don't have very many subscribers, is kind of weird, because I got a lot of videos. Yes, that's what it is. Lots of videos. I have more Star Trek and Transformer fan films than most Transformers and Star Trek fans have done. They have action figure fan films with Star Trek people. I even did this weird Blessings Deferred thing, which like my grandmother's novel done with Star Trek figures in it. It's just it's not a Star Trek story. It's just I used the action figures, and it's really odd, and it works, but it's really odd, and it's basically have to use the figures after the show was over. The Chimera series is officially done, and that doesn't mean that at some point they couldn't do more. They certainly could. It's done. The sets are all struck and gone. The studio itself went under. But we did. But with Robotech Meets the Transformers 2023 and Starship Chimera Destinies and Blessings Deferred, we did it all in the other studio. We did it at Queen Bee Studios, and they'd be up to doing another one of something. We don't know what it is. There's no script. There's nothing yet. And that brings me to another oddity. In that, some of them are saying, "Oh, he's going to be in Star Trek Legacy." No. Absolute no. There was a game called Star Trek Legacy. Maybe you're confusing it with that. That came out in 2006 as well. And that other thing. And that ship from First Frontier, that weird-looking ship with a saucer section kind of squared, does resemble the Chimera A. Well, that's on purpose. It's supposed to look like that. Yes, that's on purpose. That's on purpose. And the tail actually looks like that on purpose. Yeah. Also, because of what we had to work with, we couldn't use the Dremel device anymore to make a round saucer section. It's all the newer ships that have a round saucer section. They're actually a piece of something else that was already cut, because we didn't want to use any actual tools to the shuttle has a few cuts to it from a little sanding saw, but the shuttle has cuts in it. But yeah, we didn't want to use any of the extra tools and stuff and make a horrible mess. So we didn't. We wanted to keep everything, paint mess and everything, get down so it wasn't a mess. And I think we succeeded. Also, we could get new planet balls and paint them up and stuff, but they don't look right as balls, like toy balls. They look like toy balls on the set. It does not look like a planet. So we just get to get planet footage from the net. That's fine, or battle footage from the net, just as long as it's other fan footage and not from an actual theatrical movie. As long as it's freeware only, we're fine. But yeah, that the problem with that too is you have that. Also, this is an earlier version of Photoshop than we were using, because Photoshop completely died. So we're actually using the Photoshop from Space Bridge, and so we'll get 2023 or 2024, but apparently it really sucks, and Adobe sucks, and it didn't work, so got rid of it. Couldn't even use it, and so we're stuck with the earlier program until we can get some other video editing programs. So that kind of slows things down if you have, you don't have Final Cut still around, but that's for Mac. We don't have one of those. It's a PC. But yeah. So the Adobe, the later versions of Adobe, just screw up the computer and don't work with it. They just refuse to work with it. It just there's something really, really wrong in there internally. It just doesn't. Yeah, the whole idea that you have to keep adding stuff to it to make it work means your program doesn't work at all. And yeah, it's like, come on. So yeah, but the drawing program, tablet program, all that, the earlier version of it, 2015 and 2013, seemed to work. Those were the store-bought ones from before, so they work. But the whole thing is completely screwed. Yeah, so that's kind of a problem with doing new ones. So this is just a render and MTS format, then to MP4 with an earlier version of it. We've been doing the earlier version. You can kind of tell the quality is not as good. But yes, so Star Trek Legacy apparently blew up as this rumor thing all over the internet to Terry Metalis and all that stuff. And, Terry Metalis. So this month, he actually said last month, he said, it's completely a rumor, and that would be fun, but nobody at the studio was writing anything for a show called Star Trek Legacy. There is nothing going on about that. Nor would we use the name of that video game from 2006. So yeah, that would be no. That would be a definite no. What they are doing is probably a mistake, is the other Star Trek movie is going to be a prequel set in the Abrams timeline, but during the early... They should stop with the prequels. Go forward. Now, don't go forward like Discovery did and go to the 32nd century. Go forward. So what they are doing, in addition to this other stupid prequel idea that I hope they drop, like a lead balloon, it's a bad idea. Don't do any more prequels. Keep going forward. How about Next Gen does? I suggested Next Gen does a Deep Space Nine movie. Current update Deep Space Nine movie. That was only a rumor and suggestion. It was not an actual thing. They're not doing a Deep Space Nine movie. Guys, come on. It would be really problematic to do the Bajorans and the Cardassians and the Dominion as a movie. If you want your Deep Space Nine movie fix, watch Starship Destinations, my fan film this season, and you get to see an episode that goes to Deep Space Nine, based on one of our early stories that put in there and updated. Yes, our show Destinations takes place 3 years after Picard, or roughly 2.5. The whole series actually turns out takes place a little after Picard. Starship Locations, Destinations 1, 2. Starship Locations, the series. Starship Locations Season 2, The Fallen Ones. Starship Locations Season 3, Destinations. All take place after Picard. So it fits in the timeline really well. Not sure how that synergy worked, but it did. So if we ever come back, it's going to be 2405 and beyond. It's not going to be, yeah. It's not going to be, yeah, we're not going back to the prequel. There was one last story in there, the last roundup. That was a rumor story. Oh, you're going to bring Kirk and Picard and everybody. Well, if that was the case, it would be action figures. And I'm not entirely averse to that, because it'd be action figures. It'd be me playing the characters, so it wouldn't be like they're actually in it. Yeah, don't confuse somebody's fan film with the real thing. Don't do like they did in 2016 with Mike Gamelt. And think, oh, his fan script that he wrote is going to be pitched to Star Trek because he's popular and he was on one of the games. He was on, Star Trek. Don't think that he was in one of the games. Yeah, that's another tangent. This game designer got gung ho and decided that he's going to do it. And then some of them complained, oh, he could be some kid and everything, it's messed up and kid's fan film and making fun of it. I wasn't making fun. We weren't making fun of it. We were saying like, he was wrong. He wasn't doing a fan film because Star Trek didn't accept fan submissions and said so in 2016. He was wrong. He was not. He had gotten a cease and desist letter from Paramount because they wanted the name Star Trek Beyond, and that was the name of his fan film site. That's all that happened. That's it. That's the whole story. But he ballooned it out, and he was still under the bizarre delusion that he actually pitched. And that somehow Star Trek Lower Decks and Discovery, they were his originally and not Brian Fuller's and Mike McMahon's. They were Brian Fuller's and Mike McMahon's. They had nothing to do with this guy, this Gamelt fellow. They had nothing to do with it. Different Mike. It is interesting, though, that some of his characters did end up on Lower Decks. But that's probably an extreme coincidence and cross-pollination with our Chimera stuff. That's what happened. They were all, the plucky character. Yeah, let's have her show up. Yeah. And they're stereotypes anyway. There's plucky character, the rogue captain, the swashbuckling guy. They're stereotypes. Something like that would happen anyway, inevitably, right? We can't say that Tendi is Sandra Talisman, anyway, that the character from my story, any more than Sandra Talisman is Tendi, any more than she's the Orion feisty girl from his story. It's just a coincidence. And yeah, kind of Gamelt's story ended up kind of as the DNA of Strange Worlds anyway. Star Trek Strange Worlds Season 1 kind of had a little some of the elements of the story in it anyway, so it's fine. And we made Tendi and Rutherford into characters more like his as they got older. But really, they're not. We have no connection with him other than we didn't think his pitch actually happened, and it didn't. That's all. So yeah, it didn't happen. Changed it to Star Trek Uncharted, and then gave himself the name of another game series. So everybody went to his channel because it's called Uncharted. And there was a third gamer that wrote the Spectre series that has since re-edited his Spectre stuff at least it's a fan film. At least it's that. There's like 4-hour-long things on a different guy. And we had nothing to do with him either. Although you can say it's like some of the characters are similar to his character in there. But they're not. We weren't borrowing from his at all. He was borrowing more from assets from video games to make his. At least he did a fan film instead of just a script. Originally, the Gamelt story was just a script. It was a 3-hour-long screenplay. It was a script. It wasn't a fan film yet. If you're going to call it a fan film, call it a fan film. We were encouraging, do a Star Trek Uncharted fan film. We'll review it. Do it. You put it together as a fan film. It's fine. It's a fan film. It's just you weren't pitching to Star Trek. As well, it's not a fine fan film. It's an okay fan film. But still. Yeah, so that's fine. And no, he was not a child. He was my age. So, come on. Oh, no, it's some kid. No, it's not. No, he's probably 50 now. Probably around 50. So he's not a kid. No, he's Certainly were back in the day when we actually were in that writing contest and did a Fearful Symmetry and the Arbiter, now called Fearful Symmetry and the Arbiter of Kepterra. Finally put them out there, and that actually was encouraged by an actual Star Trek person, because Mark's Cards and they call him Mark's Cards and I were at the Star Trek convention, the crossover of the thing in 2023, and there was David Gerald was there. David Gerald, the Trouble Tribbles guy. He had seen the preview. He had seen some of our fan film. and he had seen some of it, the Turtle Hunt. Yeah, and then he watched a little more of it and commented on it the next day. So, but he said, yeah, put your fan film up. Do your you did a few of those. You mentioned it on your channel. Put those up. Make fan films out of them. So we did. So yeah, Destinations has their fan film, and therefore creative consultant mention of David Gerald from the classic Trek in there, as well as the Starship DC Fontana. If you caught that, that's the Starship DC Fontana in that episode was Easter egg was a Star Trek writer who died in around 2019, and we honored her with a ship. So we had her with a ship. And then the ship is broken on the planet, on the Mob planet, which is a funny piece of the action planet. Yeah, it is a little derivative that we went to the piece of the action planet. We went to the Roman planet. We did that, yeah, but we did the Dominion again. We did, other stuff. But it's fine. It wouldn't have made a great Star Trek episode, but it made great episodes of the fan film series. It's what it is. But yeah, there's no Star Trek Legacy. Sorry, guys. They probably wouldn't call it that anyway. However, there is something afoot over there, from what I was able to read from the net, from all named sources. The Trek movie and Trek Core, and even though, well, not Trek Core anymore. Trek movie, Memory Alpha, and their wiki page, which usually cut out the fan rumors. They were saying there's a possibility of a Picard era movie. Although the Picard show, season 3, because there was some consulting back and forth. There was some. At least that finishes the story. It finishes. You finish the story. You don't need to do more of the Picard crew, which is why you should do a Deep Space Nine one next. Ding, 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 ding. But don't do the Nog one. Don't do that one. Don't do that 8th episode pilot thing. They keep calling the 8th season, but it was a script treatment, and somebody had animated some of it. It was a script treatment. It wasn't an 8th season. It was an 8th season pilot, and not a very good one, because they killed Aaron Eisenberg before he's even actually really died in real life. That's messed up, and that would have meant that he would not have a ship named after him and wouldn't be famous in the future. My series pays homage to the glory of Aaron Eisenberg by having him not only command the Emmett Till into adventures for another 5 years, but become so heroic that they remember him 700 years later, and that's why they named him the ship. So it's canon. Starship Locations is canon. But we did not pitch this to Star Trek. Yes, we're not actually at Paramount. If that was the case, the channel would have massive more subscribers. Immediately, there would be like, oh my goodness, this guy's writing for Star Trek. Wow. No. It's just that a lot of our stuff is so much on the same wavelength that we thought of stuff weeks or years in advance of what they did. And I always consider and then they consider, well, what about the bluegills? We did the bluegills with the tribbles. We put the bluegills in the tribbles. A little weird, but it seemed to work for whatever it was. Giant tribbles, then you could have giant ones, if you do that. I'm not sure how that works, but hey, it's science fiction parody. It's on a par with Lower Decks. It's in the same universe. But some things are changed from Lower Decks, actually. And that season finale of Lower Decks last season, it's just changed because Nick Locarno is alive in our universe, and so is Cedo Jaxa, because they rescued them both in 2376 during the end of the Dominion War, 2375, late 2375. They rescued them. because they were on a Cardassian prison planet. They were rescued. I think I've mentioned this many times in this story's canon. And then because they rescued him, she took a while to recover. And Nick Locarno, because he was in the Cardassian prison for like 15 years, they figured, well, all right, you're redeemed. You've suffered enough. You were at the hands of the Cardassians. You can come back to Starfleet and serve on the Enterprise E and stuff. And then he eventually becomes more important and stuff. And of course, his brother has come back from the Delta Quadrant and all that. And his brother is Tom Paris. So that link is that can totally work. As Cedo Jaxa, according to the Chimera timeline, will go on to captain a starship. It's not the Chimera. She gets married in the 2405 at a little over 50, 53 or something like that. Not bad. And to a guy named Cassins, and they go off and go on adventures together. Javar Tal or Javan Tal goes on. He's one of the hosts of the Tal symbiote. He goes on to be to help serve on that bioship they found, the spaceship, and his descendants eventually lead to the descendants of him that's on the after the space burn 600 some years later in Discovery. We find Javar Tal's descendant, Idira Tal, and so forth on the Discovery. So it's connected to Discovery. So it's in that universe apparently. Assuming that the Elysian eventually develops into the Elysian people, they do their own thing and they kind of do their own sort of cult-like thing. Assuming the others that set up that story actually happens. But yes, as they imply in the story. Assuming that Ezri Dax, who would be 50 in her late mid-50s now as well, that she would be retiring in 10 years or so in the timeline and do other things, or maybe she'd keep serving on a ship. But she did leave the Chimera in 2405 and went on to something else. Nog went on to be captain of Deep Space Nine, cementing his legacy for all time. Captain of Deep Space Nine. In this timeline, Deep Space Nine was not destroyed, and it wasn't destroyed in Lower Decks either. So. But yes, and then rebuilt. Kira is presumably retired. She's well over 60, so she's. Crass, that's related to the Motu character, which is interesting. The Masters of the Universe character is named after our character Crass, which is really bizarre and acts like her. So she's like a Klingon with a helmet thing. She's basically she's a Klingon. All right, she's not, but it is funny that they're literally the same character in personality. This would be her as a child, or running around being insane. But for Crass, actually the character in Chimera, unlike the other one, she goes on to captain the Chimera on another 5-year mission, I'm assuming. So if she came back in another one, she would be the captain on the ship. Use the model again. But we probably won't do that. Probably, if we did anything new, it would be a scaled down version where we would have some sort of a back to basics crew going to a planet where some mystery happens, so we can have a minimal bridge and minimal corridors of ship, but mostly planet adventure, like swashbuckling space like thing going on. So we have there isn't anything yet, but we'll see. Yeah, I haven't quite come up with that, but yeah, don't worry about the legacy thing because it's not happening. I doubt they would call it that because it would imply that Kirk shows up, wouldn't it? Like in the game, they're not going to do that. 95-year-old Kirk's not going to show up. The only way that works is if Silly Trek does it with that last Roundup story we have, which is kind of based on that book, The Last Roundup. Well, only loosely the title. We would have the surviving members of the TOS cast. It would be Kirk, Chekhov, and Sulu, and they would show up and go on an adventure with Picard and some other people that survived that. Maybe Cisco and some other people that survived that. Yeah, do some adventures. Possibly involving Q, because Q is awesome. Q. But there's nothing written yet. That's not a hint to anything. It's not written yet. Section 31 is coming out. That's at least that's only a movie. Yeah, it's not interesting if you make like if you take elements of that and make it into something, then it's not really. If their spy organization is wearing badges and black clothes, then make them say like we're spies. You've defeated being a spy. You're not a spy anymore. That's dumb. They have like it would be like it's like the Batman credit card in that one episode of the Batman movie where the guy had a bad credit card. It's like a bad credit card. What? That's stupid. Why would he have a bank account? It doesn't make any sense. like, but I think that would be another tangent. That was from the 2017 Doug Walker speech. Channel Awesome, but yeah. From the convention. I went to a convention in Sumner. I'm dressed as Clint Cowpoke. And I said, well, I am Clint Cowpoke. That's a fine costume you got there. He said, oh my goodness, wow, Clint Cowpoke. So I play that guy. Got a panel? No, I just walk around. There's no panel this time. I did almost had one, but they canceled it. There was almost going to be one. There was going to be 2 Transformer panels, 2022 or so. But no, they never got in contact with me, so it was canceled because they never called me. So, oh well, oh well. So yeah, it was canceled. So we had the other panel, which was fine. So we all went to the other guy's Transformer panel. It's fine. Yeah, he was more famous anyway, so it was fine. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, as a Transformer Star Trek fan film panel. No, we did do a panel years ago at Baycon, which is a panel. But yeah, I've never moderated anything. I do the Atomicon thing myself, but yeah, I'm assuming you have to get paid to do that. But anyway, so that's the tangent there. But yeah, so there might be maybe a Picard movie, next gen movie. There probably shouldn't be, because the show ended. There probably shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a prequel. Don't do that. No, don't do a prequel. The only way you could do a prequel is set it before Next Generation. Set it in that time period of 78, 80 years between Star Trek and the Next Generation, and bring back the OG guy from Discovery. Bring back Brian Fuller, who's done with American Gods, I think, and have him come out and say, Brian Fuller, do something set in 2333. Do something set on the before the events of Picard and crew, 20 years before them, where we've never explored in a Star Trek series. I'm not going to do that. They're not going to do that, but do something before. You'd be like, nah, I don't want to do that. But yeah, apparently David Gerrold didn't like Discovery, didn't like they did. Well, they used one of his characters, so that kind of put him off. And then they killed him off, but then they brought him back later. I mentioned that to him. They brought that guy back, though. And he's like, that's still stupid. It defeats the purpose of him dying in the first place. It's supposed to be a metaphor for the 1980s and that kind of thing. I was like, yeah, it sucks. It was stupid how they brought him back. Yeah, it was pretty dumb. So Stamets and the other guy, even though they're Brian Fuller characters, Stamets and Kober, they're actually kind of based on these other guys from the David Gerrold script. From Blood and Fire, that he was very adamant about it. Said, don't do a Blood and Fire remake. We already did one. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tackle that one. That's not going to make sense with action figures and stuff. No, I probably wouldn't. No, he did say don't call him Mr. Gerald. That's his father. No. Call him David. But yeah. It's too formal. But yeah, so he didn't like Discovery because it was Although in Blood and Fire they do kill the character that in there. They do that. They seem to think that was cool. I don't think it was a cool idea. I think they should have left him alive. But yeah, oh well. I figure the way to approach the characters. Okay, that like yeah, there's a tendency in the 80s and 90s have a gay character and then kill them. That's called kill off the gays or get rid of there we go. And they did that a lot in the 80s because they were freaked out. But I think currently in the culture, like 40 years later now, 35 years later, that you have 35, 36 years later, that you have there should be a more open thing about that because it's the future in Star Trek and whatever, and they should just be like, okay, let's not do that. Let's just have this person on the ship that has a gay relationship or a bi relationship, and they're just that it doesn't enter into their daily lives in the story. It doesn't. What they do off duty when they're, it isn't a problem for them. That's the way the next generation of Gene Roddenberry universe should be. There isn't a problem with it. It's sort of like why is Picard bald when he could get hair implants? Well, because nobody has a problem with that, with Picard being bald. I think the Star Trek universe should be inclusive because it's already a weird dystopia anyway with the socialist overtones where everybody is as equal because they've eliminated poverty and want by having replicators and devices that can just give you whatever you want. So people don't even need to work, really. Why are people even in Starfleet in Star Trek? They're technically, and they could go on a rabbit trail about that too, because of that, and I won't. But yeah, the gay LGBTQ characters, why not just have them be there and everybody doesn't think anything of it either way? They're just like, whatever. Yeah, they might ask the guy, hey, how was your date with what's his name last night? And be like, oh yeah, it was okay. And then they go on to the next thing and they do something else. So it's another bunny trail to what's going on anyway, just because, include all inclusion. It's sort of like the message of the finale of Destinations was basically, why are humans being racist toward each other when they're all the same species? They should all be friends because they're all the same species. Doesn't matter what their orientation is. They're on the planet together, sharing the planet. They should be at peace with each other. Just species. There shouldn't even be war and strife and whatever, because that's a very Star Trek message there. But yeah, they don't need to have. Yeah, it's like, why are they fighting over tribal images and stuff? Kind of goes with Next Generation a little bit. Fighting over tribal god images. Long before your military was controlled with drugs. But yes, so yeah, why would they even freak out about trans characters? Because like half of them are. like, aren't they? I mean, technically the Trill is sort of a weird joined interspecies thing, and technically, Next Generation did continue the Bluegills. You could consider the Bluegills as renegade Trill. That totally could be a thing. I think one of the comic books did that. One of the books did that. They're renegade Trill. So the Trill eventually joined the Federation, and then they're like, okay, we're these renegade ones that got out of our bodies and are running around being bad. Well, they're renegades. They're renegade Trill. I think that was a very cool idea to include that in the fan film and say that. Like that. So the Trill are the Bluegills. They're the Bluegills. That works. But they were probably thinking regular bloodworms and stuff. That's another thing they need to fix in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Yeah, they need to fix it so that the Gorn are not aliens from Alien with parasites. The alien parasites in them, that's Regulon bloodworms, which ties with David Gerald's script about the... Yeah, they got that wrong. They got to consult David Gerald. No, it's Regulon bloodworms. Regulon bloodworms. They got inside the Gorn and infected them, and that's why they're doing that with the transitional weird Gorn baby thing. They're Regulon bloodworms. They got inside them somehow. Maybe they're from Regulus, even though that's a bright star that wouldn't have planets. But yes, then it would make sense. It's like, oh, those aren't really Gorn. They're like infected with something. The parasites inside them. Bit like the parasitic wasp creature thing. Which was a basis for Alien, basically. Stop doing Alien, guys. Just, no more Alien. That's no. That's just silly. But yeah. All those other rumors and things, I don't know. But yeah, LGBTQ characters, fine, show them. If you're freaking out about that, grow up. So what? It ain't about you. Usually some groups think it's all about them. And those internet narcissist characters, but yeah, keyboard warriors and stuff. Ooh, let's say Star Trek is woke. It always was. If you think woke is, well, to be nice to people and be all inclusive, then yeah, they're woke. But they can't define it. Huh? But yeah. So Star Trek is about exploring strange worlds and stuff like that. There was even a person complaining about although they were slow to the party, somebody was complaining on that about where no man has gone before being changed to where no one has gone before. But that happened 30 years ago in Next Generation. 35, 40, almost 40 years ago in Next Generation. They changed it to where no one has gone before. Even though they knew, at least, and then they clarified it in Star Trek 6 by having Kirk say, where no man, where no one has gone before. Meaning mankind, and where other species have gone before. Not as in man or woman, but where other species have. So it's a little awkward, but Next Generation was already using it for 5 years at that point. So Kirk was just slow to the uptake. Where no one has gone before. It can still be where no man has gone before and mean mankind. For all mankind, to serve mankind, that kind of thing. That's the cookbook, to serve mankind. Yeah, we know it's humankind. It's interesting that Wrath of Khan eliminated gender-specific neutral names, and that Saavik was referred to at least twice as Mr. Saavik in the story, and not Ms. Saavik. And in Voyager, they rarely said yes, ma'am, because Janeway was annoyed about that. But in Picard, they were using it constantly saying yes, sir, so they went back to gender specifics again, saying yes, sir, even though it was a woman. A couple of times, usually in a condescending way. Yes, sir, Admiral. Oh. Usually being condescending about that. And Picard didn't really have an ego problem. This was odd about season 1. It wasn't his ego. It was yeah. Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. He wasn't egotistical. That's Shatner. The only one of my stories that he acknowledged was the Starship Chimera fan film. Early on in the Ready Room shows, he wanted to get it out of the way right away and say like, yes, me and the Traveler were with each other. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, it's true. I know there's some fan stories about that, and it's true. About me and the Traveler. And then he just went on to the next thing. Like, my. Even though Will Wheaton himself is not is straight, but as far as we know, oh my. But apparently Wesley is not, and he was with the Traveler. Excellent. And it was a joke. It was a throwaway gag in the fan film. So, yeah. Why else is he going to hang out with this grown alien man on the planet and discover the distant galaxies of the universe? It's like, oh yeah, I'll bet. Universe. I'll bet he's gonna find some other galaxies. Yeah, I'll bet. But that's fine, because it's now the new millennium. It's now 20-some years into the new millennium. So they should be all, Also, another Strange New Worlds tirade that makes no sense is pushing up the Khan dates later on and making him a little kid that writes left-handed on the door. What? Okay, the only way that works, yeah, you gotta retcon that too, because that's dumb. Just say that Star Trek is a different timeline, and that the eugenics wars in that timeline happened. Because they had a Voyager 3 in that timeline as well. And they didn't make any more Voyager 6 in that time. I didn't make any other Voyagers after that. They changed them to different ships. They didn't know. So it's a different timeline. It's a different timeline, and everything is changed. Khan Singh happened in the other one. The kid thing, and then they mentioned the Khan thing in the Picard season 2 and really screw things up. Because 2024 Data wouldn't know about 2024 Adam Sung. They named him after my character, Adam Sung, of course. Adam Brown, Adam Sung. That's pretty funny. So they were directly referencing me, which was funny, as Data, which was hilarious. I'm not Data. I'm not Brent Spiner, but they were directly referencing one of my fan films in there. Mr. Soong there. Alton Soong's ancestor. Evil, of course. But yes, of course they were. They have. So yeah, that shouldn't be Khan there either, and the kid shouldn't be Khan. The kid in Strange New Worlds that they encountered in the past is merely the ancestor of Idara Khan from the episode, and not Khan literally. That's stupid. No, he's a descendant. That's all. Yeah, that's why she disappeared, because he's a descendant. Retcon that. Fix that. That's dumb. Don't do that. So. Well, what you could say is, okay, the eugenics wars happened in that timeline, and then there was a second Khan. That's the kid. But it would be his ancestor. It would be his descendant from 30 years later. Then it kind of works. Or 50 years later. It could be his descendant. If it's his descendant, then he's not Khan. So, yeah, he's just... They made other augments, and the children in the facility were other augments. One of them they happened to name Khan. It's not him. It's his. Yeah, it's augment. Anyway, so we can totally fix that. That they call it headcanon. The Trek guards call it headcanon. But the ship from Final Frontier looks like the Chimera on purpose. Yeah, that's another on purpose ship. Also, the Bill Krause the Shangri-La was the inspiration for our two versions of the Titan, and theirs as well on Star Trek Picard. So here you go. Also, the Stargazer was and the second one was the inspiration for the Jung Swan, the spaceship, as well. Also, I think Ryan Church and Krause and the guys. Who's the other guy? Yeah. Anyway, we were inspired for this. I was inspired by the same source. That's all. I didn't talk to him. I was just inspired by the same idea. Oh, this would be cool. Although the Enterprise G is a little small, if it's that particular ship, it'd be like smaller than the Enterprise C, which is kind of interesting. Smaller than the Enterprise C, Excelsior sized, basically, with a little bit of. I think Riker would want a bigger ship. You can see some of my fan film drawings on the channel. Anyway, so yeah, those are the rumor mill and rambly rumor mill, but that's kind of it. Sure. There will be more, but we just haven't come up with anything. And if they suddenly say they've greenlit Starship Locations as a series, as far as I know, don't think so. But yeah, no, we have not pitched to Paramount because they still have those rules that say, they don't know who you are, right? I'm surprised that the other one, Final Frontier thing, was on there because this Frontier thing was on there because even that guy, those were just fan drawings. Yeah, that wasn't going to be a show. That was some guy on Trek Web that knew people. They weren't actually considering that, were they? As an animated show? Oh my goodness. Well, that wasn't gonna work. They named the captain after Jason Alexander for some reason. I guess they really like that comedian. Captain Jason Alexander. Okay. That's kind of silly. Because Kirk's name is Tiberius. The middle name is Tiberius. Although in the pilot, and where no one has gone before, it's R. Kirk. James R. Kirk. Yeah, don't do prequels. Don't do. I know there was an old Hemsworth rumor. That's not true. Um, there was a Tarantino script. There was another script. What they need to do with a Star Trek movie, I think, before I leave the rant here, they need to do is something new and amazing and outgoing that actually brings in people who aren't fans, as well as the fans. Well, it's one of the reasons don't do Wrath of Khan again. It's been done to death. There's been 13 movies, and you've done some variant of Wrath of Khan for 6 of them. No more Wrath of Khan. Don't do any more of that. No, we don't need a space villain. Even Picard Season 3 had a space villain, although brilliantly played by Amanda Plummer doing the Libyan and the Elysian from Silly Track. Brilliantly doing it. She nailed that character, Vanek. So I was like, oh my goodness. And that was a Wrath of Khan spoof in that case, though, because she was clearly over the top and she had like a portal gun and stuff. So okay, it's over the top. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it was clearly a Silly Track. So those first few episodes of that were Silly Track, but that's awesome. They're referencing our stuff directly. Mr. Metalis, you may call at any point. Leave a message. We will pitch you a Star Trek movie. Yeah, and then we'll be famous. So, no, that's not the way it works. No, the way it works is they take your idea and they just use it. They don't pay you. So here we have a good swashbuckling adventure Star Trek movie. You just have to have the most charismatic people in the cast, a budget that doesn't get overblown, and you don't do the whole. Another thing you don't do time travel. You've done it for 4 of the movies. You had time travel, where you go back to a different era, and that era shapes the future and stuff. Don't do that. No, not visits to 2024. You've done that numerous times. That's the other fallback. Don't go to the 2020s because it's cheaper. Don't do what He-Man in 87 and Beastmaster 87 did, and have him go back to Hollywood because they ran out of money. No, your space adventure needs to be in the future, in space, out there. 2400 and beyond. Your space adventure needs to be out in space. Have them go, instead of fighting a villain, have them go to a planet or a colony or something with issues that have to be solved on the planet, where maybe there's a space battle too, but it's not that the villain is the villain. The villain is maybe merely space gods or something. Well, they've done a few of those. They've never done a full-on balls-to-the-wall Q thing. I don't know if they can, but Starship Chimera, the fan film, did it with action figures, in that 2019. Yeah, about 5-6 years ago. So we did it. We showed the Q continuum. We even had a line in there where Q tells Janeway it's not merely a cornfield and some ridiculous field somewhere. No. This is where the beginning, the middle, and the end happen. This is all that is Q. All that is it ever was. Q. The continuum itself. And they are in the continuum. They're down there, weird lights and things shooting off. And on this weird see-through table. It's in the backyard. The Q table. Lights on it, lights above it. Had a niece helping with that. And then all the things going on. The Q was glowing in the table and all that stuff. And it looked like a psychedelic trip. And there was like glowing floor and glowing sky and it looked really, really cool. And yeah, they were in the continuum. And they were like, we're floating in space in the Q continuum. They're floating around and stuff. And Picard and everybody there in that universe gains Q powers because they're in the continuum. And Picard admits the other thing we always knew was the case in Star Trek. We know Picard has been with Data. We also know Picard's been with Q. It's canon. And he's all, Q, if this is one of your tests, so help me. And we resolved the Q Picard story arc and feud in the Starship Destinations finale. And we established that he didn't. Well, he came back at the end of the Terry Matalas series and he said, "Oh, this is for Picard's son." But no, we knew we knew he didn't die. We knew that was the case. And as for Cedo Jax not dying in this timeline, it makes sense in this timeline. It doesn't irredeem the character because what we did in Chimera to establish it. They didn't know she'd been really. It was a really stupid death. It was like, oh, they send her off in a shuttlecraft and they're just gone. It's like, no, that's dumb. She's a red shirt, basically. You haven't made the character more honorable by having her have an honorable death. You made her have a stupid death by having her just disappear and no one says anything ever again. No. Sharon Phil would be like, no, bring me back. Find a way. Come on. But yes. So we have. There just needs to be. That was as silly. The Yar death was just about as silly as that one. But dramatic point. They didn't need to do that either, really. So it's fine. She's the Cardassians captured her and she's on a planet and they rescue her, and then she becomes an officer again and everything goes from there. And Picard feels sorry for having not really looked that well for her because he really didn't, and it's like, oh yeah, that could have been the case. It would make sense that they capture her and they took her somewhere. So and it's fan canon. It's not really what they're going to do in Lower Decks season 4. I don't know, but they're not going to do that. Although they had Shannon Phil for one episode, they probably figure out a way to bring her back in some way, from or another. They have the Genesis planet in that episode, so maybe they I don't know how they would do that, but maybe get her DNA in there and she's a clone. That's fine too. If she's a clone, fine. Find some way to do it. Although they kind of retconned themselves. Because I just assumed that in season 1 of Lower Decks, the Bajoran blonde girl on the bridge who shows up in the other ship to help the Cerritos was just Cedo. She just showed up and I'm Cedo. Hi, I'm Cedo. It's like, that would have been fine too. It's like, okay, just around. That's fine. They found me. I came back. Yay. And that would be canon with the Chimera story as well. So, but yes, yay. So yeah, that's my long update thing on Star Trek rumors, that some of which are completely made out there. Like, they're gonna quote Kal Kat here. No, they're not. No, I had nothing to do with. I'm not involved in any future Star Trek projects. That would be awesome, but no. But I happen to know that Legacy's not going to happen. It's not going to be called that because, well, for one thing, they'd have to pay homage to the game. It's annoying enough for them to have to pay homage to the guy that wrote the episode Lower Decks every time they have the show. Legally, I was like, oh yeah, I got to pay homage to him. Yeah. Also, it's kind of funny that Robbie McNeil is too old to have been like Wesley's senior officer in the cadet school. He's actually too old. He unless he was held back 2 years. Yeah. Oh well. Because you figure Robbie McNeil is what, 60 now, and I'm 53. I'm the same age as Will Wheaton. So, how does that work? If he was like, so if Will Wheaton's character was like 17, he goes into the academy. Robbie McNeil would be like 26. Would not make sense. It would not make, why is he still in the academy? Oh well. Anyway, so, but yeah, maybe he's held back. Maybe that's why he became rebellious. I was held back. Now make it like a swashbuckling space adventure on a planet. There's your movie. Put some legacy characters in it, but Mark Scard said, well, don't do the thing with the Star Wars and have, like, don't have your, don't just include characters from the games and the shows just to make it a legacy, because that would be dumb. Like, don't have, like, Mara Jade Skywalker show up in your Star Wars, because nobody would know that is except the game. It would be, you'd be doing what they did with Cad Bane and including the guy that got sucked into the Silac pit, that Boba Fett guy. He should be dead. But yeah, he was talking about Star Wars. But it's like, well, Star Trek don't do that as well. Don't just have, ooh, Captain Kirk shows up to save the world. It's like, okay, no, that's not what should happen. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Maybe have Alexander Rishenko, Muriel Paris, and Molly O'Brien, and Jeremy Astor, the legacy of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, show up and go with Jake Sisko and go on and Nog and go on an adventure. There you go. They'd have to recast Aaron Eisenberg, but yeah, there you go. Have them go on an adventure themselves as a crew on a ship, having to become the future people, like not in time travel, but on an adventure which establishes them, sort of like I did with the Starship Distant Destinies, where I put Mahoney and some of them on the planet, including Rishenko. Yeah, they redeem themselves by playing this part to get to the ship and unlock the mystery of the ship and why we already kind of did that with the Distant Destinies. They unlocked the mystery of the ship to get to the ship and crew and figure out why those people, who are also young people, have activated the ship's AI and all that, and figure out what happened. And figure out what happened and make things right. Yeah, so we already kind of done that all season. So it would have to be something amazing. It would have to be a story that's amazing. And we have nothing yet. We only have ideas. They're not even ideas. I'm not going to go out and spread a bunch of rumors that aren't founded in anything. The fan film rumor things out there. They don't need to do a prequel. They don't need to do Starfleet Academy. They were talking about Starfleet Academy when I was in the Academy. They've been wanting to do that since 1987. That was the original script of Star Trek V, Starfleet Academy. They changed it and made it more the God thing. They just rewrote it, the God thing. So they were essentially doing Star Trek the motion picture again, because the God thing was originally, that from Phase 2. So Star Trek V is just a Phase 2 script that Shatner got a hold of. That's what. But even back then, Roddenberry said, well, you punch a hole in the face of the universe, or some of the people, as Roddenberry said, that's not exciting enough. You go to meet God in space. You punch a hole in the universe and meet God. Then what? Yeah, you're kind of screwed at that point. So yeah, the God has to be an alien that's not a God, because otherwise it's ridiculous. But yeah, so there will be more. We'll just have to see what will be more, because we did the Transformers Robotech and the Destinies, and maybe there's a Transformers one first. We're probably not going to do 8-part miniseries though for a while. We're probably going to be more like a movie and then another movie. Yeah, a feature film. That'd be fun. But we'll see. There's nothing yet. There really is nothing yet. And no, they're not going to call it Legacy, because there's too many legacies. There's going to be a Superman Legacy. That's actually a title over there, DC. That's the other guy moved over there. He's moving over there. And there's going to be we're still Disney, Marvel, and Paramount, and Nickelodeon, so we're still over here. But we're not on the Disney Channel anymore. So still on the Paramount one and still on the Netflix one. So. But not on the Disney Channel anymore. We could go back, but it's too expensive, so we're not going back. I'm also not going over to WB and Max, because that's too expensive. Those are channels to go to watch stuff. Yeah, we're not actually working for any of those studios. Just not doing that. Yeah, just that's not what's going on. Watching stuff and reviewing people's reviews. It's kind of what we do. And now I must cue myself out of this story before I ramble on excessively about no Discovery. Discovery Season 5 is coming out, and I have not been contacted about that. Although it is weird that not only was Kal a character, but Sue Kal was also a character. So they really loved my show, apparently, on Discovery. They should just call me. I'll go to Canada, be on the show. All right. But no, they didn't. You can use my character. You can call me. Kal. The Kal Katster. Actually, I'm stealing the Kal Katster from Saturday Night Live from Roy Schneider. I probably shouldn't, Rob Schneider, because he's kind of annoying. But I thought that's where that comes from. He would go Steiner, Schneider, whatever. He'd throw different names on it. Stir. Yeah, not a Rod Schneider fan. I'm just like ripping off the shtick a little bit. Yeah. So, Star Trek. Yeah, you want to do a good Star Trek, it has to be a good, fun, watchable, a good adventure. Yeah.